Hey everyone, just a quick update before we begin proper. After a little bit of feedback, I decided that for the A&W recaps, I'm going to provide MP3 download links in the description of the video, so you can take this on the go if you so desire. So, without any further ado, hi, my name is William, and I would like to talk to you about American Ninja Warrior Season 9, the Daytona Qualifier episodes, in about 20 minutes or less, starting now. So, this episode would probably be... actually, I wouldn't say probably. This episode is the best episode so far of the three. It took place on the actual Daytona Speedway in Daytona, Florida. And a big reason for this is because of the NASCAR is coming back to NBC, and they want to cross-promote it. And in fact, I believe the Daytona 500 is this Saturday. So they timed this out perfectly for this. And so you did get one of those crossover segments. We'll get to that, but yeah, if you're wondering, hey, why are they in Daytona? That's why, to promote Daytona 500. It was cool though that they actually got to do it on the racetrack though. It provided a very nice backdrop for the whole thing. So the course this time around, of course, they started with the floating steps, and then was the rolling pin, which was like. It was a really bootleg-looking obstacle, quite frankly. Basically, it was this long bar that had like this grip part that slid back and forth, and you had to like grab onto it like this, and you slide your way down this like there's two. It hangs on two hooks, and there's drops. It looks very sketchy. It looks like it was made at the last minute because something went wrong. And from what I've read, it kind of sounds like that might have been the case, that the original plan didn't work out and they ended up making this one. But yeah, it was fine, but visually looked bad. Especially compared to like a lot of the other stuff that they make. After that was a new obstacle called the wing nuts. This was, again, one of the obstacles that was as a result of the design competition, and I really like this obstacle. These were awesome. Basically, you have to hold on to this bar and essentially swing yourself sideways and jump side to side. I thought it was really cool. I really liked the look, the craftsmanship, so much better than the rolling pin, quite frankly. But yeah, it was a very well-made obstacle. I really like it. And also, there's a plexiglass on the side that faces the camera. And I imagine that's because that's partially like a TV thing. They want the contestant to face the camera when they're running the course. And then after that was the Broken Bridge, which was originally in Vegas last year. And the one in Vegas was quite lame, quite frankly. I thought it was a very lame obstacle. Wasn't a fan of it, but this version was better because there was actual like elevation involved. They weren't all the same height. I think that alone made it better. You definitely got some better wipeouts too, but it's better in a regional course, quite frankly. And then after that was the return of Rolling Thunder. I have no problem with it coming back. They changed up. It's not as hard as the qualifier last year that it was in, where there was whole panels that were whole sections that were blocked out. It does look like maybe there's a few other differences to make it a little bit easier, but I have no problem with it. I think it's a fine obstacle. It's heavy. And then ends with the warp wall, obviously. But like with the whole Rolling Thunder thing, there's a few things. It's like commentary is a bit weird when we talk about the Rolling Thunder, because on one hand they're like, oh, heavier people are at a disadvantage because they got to hold themselves up, but also like lighter people are at a disadvantage too. Quite frankly, I think the heavier people have an easier time with the obstacle just because they're able to use their weight to move it better. It seems like some of the lighter competitors, especially like some of the females who made it, it was tougher for them to get it moving just because they don't weigh as much, and so the actual wheel won't roll as easily down the track. The only other thing, Eisman had like a really dumb line, and to be fair, it's not his fault. It's because of how the obstacle is actually designed. What is it right here? So at one point, Eisman actually says, "You can see those plexiglass pieces." Not really. Not really. Plexiglass is transparent, which means it's clear, and it's really hard to see. Basically, it's the Rolling Thunder is divided up into, I think it was six or eight segments, and some of the segments are half filled with plexiglass. So sometimes you have to reach out a little farther. The problem is that it's actually really hard to see where the plexiglass is as a viewer, especially on the longer shots of Rolling Thunder. When it's a close-up shot and you're right next to the contestant, like where I am right now, you can kind of see the plexiglass through the light, especially if there's finger smudges on it. But in the longer shot, it's really hard to see. They really should have used a translucent plastic, basically a plastic that's tinted a color, whether it's blue or yellow or anything but clear. It would make it stand out more. I think it would convey to the viewer what's actually opposing the competitors on that obstacle. Because if you just use clear plexiglass, it doesn't make it as clear, quite frankly. So yeah, honestly, I would say this episode was definitely more good than bad. There's a few weird things. There's one I just want to get out of the way right away. There was a contestant. I actually didn't write his name. Sorry. There was a contestant who was there to honor his brother. He was a veteran, and he wants to raise awareness for mental health for veterans, making sure they get their help. That's fine. Just doing that cause is fine. What's not fine is having a video in the beginning of him recapping and crying over the fact that he found his brother's body after he took his life. That's probably the nicest way I can put it. It's I don't want to get too much into it, but let's just say that struck a nerve for me personally. And there's a way to talk about it without there's a way to talk about it without making it feel gross. And honestly, that felt a little gross. You didn't need that beginning part. You could have just done the rest. You could have just said he's honoring his brother and for mental health, and maybe you could have had Eisman say his brother unfortunately is no longer with us because of the mental anguish that veterans go through. You don't need the extra, God, I'm sorry. You don't need the extra spice of despair, quite frankly. And that was really the only example that I had a problem with in terms of the profiles. And I felt bad too, because his fail on the broken ridge was really funny. I laughed out loud when he did it. I thought it was a funny fall. But then I felt bad because of what he was doing, why he was there. Yeah, that's the only one that rubbed me the wrong way. There's a few other nitpicks, like for example, Casey Shuki of the Bama Ninja. I'm terrible at pronunciation, and my handwriting was bad in this case. Basically, he's the one with the awesome grandpa. I think he's more known for his grandfather than himself. Basically, they did this thing where if he clears, he's going to propose to his girlfriend. What's weird is that I'm pretty sure in his profile piece he said if he reaches the seventh obstacle, which is the salmon ladder, which means he would have to make it to the finals. He ended up failing the wing nuts, and he proposed to his girlfriend anyway. And on one hand, it's like, hey, good for them. You know, it's a nice little moment. Part of the problem is that they literally did the exact same thing in the previous episode. The only difference is that the guy got fast forward who proposed to his girlfriend in that one. It's like really back to back episodes. Yeah, like I get that like they happen, but it just seems weird that happened. So let's see here. You got John Luby. Yes, the old guy, 65 years old. I like it when older people run the course. Just in general, whether it's regardless of what the show is. If there's an obstacle show and there's an older person running the course, I love it. I like seeing him run the course. I was really pulling for him to get past those wing nuts. He almost did it. He almost did it, but not quite. Oh yeah. Oh, Joe Bynum. Oh, it's so sad to see him go out. That's a shame. Also for A&W Fantasy, the rolling pin robbed me. My dark horse pick, Todd Bourgeois, he got thrown off the course by the rolling pin. I don't know. That seems kind of sketchy. I don't know how much of it was like Todd's fault for like, I don't know, maybe not grabbing the thing correctly, or how much was the way that the obstacle was built. Oh man, that hurt. That hurt to see for two reasons. One, Todd's a nice guy, and I feel bad that he went out on the second obstacle. And it feels bad because now Rich and Bijan are probably going to beat me in A&W Fantasy again, and I'm not going to hear the end of it. What else we got here? So Ben Kennedy from NASCAR, they had him compete. They did this whole thing where they showed Matt and Akbar getting driven on the NASCAR course by him, going really fast, and they were all freaking out and stuff. It was pretty funny. Maybe a little long. He didn't do so hot, but, whatever. It's a spot to promote another show on NBC, and it's fine. It's not as bad as all those commercials that they aired for Spartan, which I'll get to in a minute. Let's see who we got here. Tyler Gillette. Or is it Gillette? I think it's Gillette. Now, this was a profile piece I really liked. He was the super fan who's been waiting to turn 21, I think, was it for 7 years? I think, yeah, because he was 14. He had just turned 21 weeks before they filmed the episode. And it was awesome to see him clear the course. He did really well. And I like this. What I really like is that I like they had footage of him when he was younger doing the Ninja Warrior stuff. That is what really brought it together. It's kind of like with the whole Morimoto stuff. They had showed footage of him, when he eventually won Sasuke. They had shown footage of him, as a young kid doing that stuff too. I like those are the stories I like. It really connects to A&W, and honestly, like that's like the kind of like emotional, inspirational stuff too. He's living his dream. Speaking of being able to live dreams in a way, Kevin Carbone, really hope I'm pronouncing that right. He was the creator of it is Kevin Carbone, sorry. He was the creator of the wing nuts. He's actually the one who submitted it to the obstacle challenge, and they ended up using it. And a little messed up is is that he didn't get an invite to compete on the show. He had to be a walk-on. And I mean, it's like, honestly, there should be a provision in the contest rules for next year, is that if you submit an obstacle and it gets used and you're eligible to compete and you want to compete, you should be allowed to compete. You should get like one free pass. Like that should be grounds for clearing. Because think about it. Like his whole profile piece was that he submitted the wing nuts and now he gets to compete on the obstacle that he submitted. That's a great story, and they almost missed out on that because they didn't accept his application originally. that's kind of messed up. But the good news, he ended up clearing the whole course. It was great. No, that was really entertaining. I like it. Like, this is the kind of stuff I like. And honestly, like, now that I'm like talking about it more, I'm liking it even more. I feel like I'm enjoying it even more than before. There were people who got fast forward. I would have liked to have seen Ryan Stratus run, but I'm glad to see that he cleared. Same thing for Travis Rosen. At least they got fast forwards. Rico Rivera and Brett Sims both got not even mentioned, despite the fact clearing. I know Sean Darling Hammond also got that same treatment. So yeah, seems like there's a lot of like people who take second place who get fast forwarded. I don't know. Maybe I'm just imagining. Excuse me. Also, they had Jessie Graff. Of course, I have to mention this. So the way they're treating Jessie, I'm actually very fine with right now. I'm very surprised with how they're treating, because I was very afraid that they were going to give her the Casey treatment, in that they overexpose her, they try to shove her down our throats, and in the end, really, like, they didn't do Casey any favors. Jessie, however, what they did, what's weird, the weird thing is that so far they've mentioned Casey more times than they've mentioned Jessie so far. And it feels like they've made a bigger deal out of Casey this season so far. Because with a lot of like the Jessie Graff mentions this year, especially in this episode, it's just been like, hey, she's competing later on. And they didn't even make a big deal. They just said, okay, like, she's coming up later. Like, that's fine. That's like, basic advertising. Like, hey, the stars are coming up later on the show. You got to watch. Like, that's fine. It's just everything before her run in terms of how they presented her was very low-key, but done appropriately, in my opinion. I'm surprised, but glad that they did it, because that was like one of my biggest fears, was that they were just going to overexpose her and like just make things harder for her at no fault of her own. As for her run, I mean, she did well. She made it into the top 30. She failed the Rolling Thunder, which, like, honestly, like that's not an easy obstacle, especially for the females, just because they're lighter, quite frankly. So I don't blame her for that. And she still, like I said, she still took it in the top 30. And it's great seeing her. I like the Spider-Man outfit. I'm not sure. I don't think that's Spider-Woman, because I think Spider-Woman, the colors are slightly different. So it's Spider-Man based. What's weird is that they had no problem mentioning Wonder Woman in A&W, but they didn't mention that she was dressed as Spider-Man. They just said superhero costume. So apparently, according to NBC, mentioning Warner Brothers, okay. Mentioning Disney, not okay. Which is weird, because there's a Spider-Man ride at Universal Studios, so you think they could have, like, tied it in somehow. I don't know. The commentary for Jessie Graff's segment, quite frankly, was not great. I'm just going to come out and say it. So I hate it when A&W does this, but I'm just going to call this out really quickly. When listing her accomplishments, Matt said a couple of weeks ago she cleared stage 2 during USA versus the World. USA versus the World was filmed like a year ago, Matt. Like, I hate it when they do this, where they act like the airing is when like these events actually happened. It's like, just say during the last USA versus the World she finished stage 2. You don't have to add the extra bit of of storyline. And also there was this, so Akbar could kind of get a bit too over energetic sometimes, when especially with the female competitors. And this time I felt like they went a little too far at being like, yeah, Jessie's great, because at times it's like, yeah, she shouldn't be doing this for some reason. I guess I should just explain. I'll try to do it really quickly, because I'm going long, unfortunately. So basically, back when Casey first cleared the regional finals in A&W 6, I had shown the clip to a female coworker, and at one point Akbar was like, "This girl isn't human," and she responded with a coworker, like, "Yeah, you keep saying that, buddy," or actually was like, you keep telling yourself, buddy." As if like it seemed like and basically she took it as if he was saying, "Oh, women shouldn't be able to do this," and so it's at that point I kind of realized like there's a fine line between trying like sounding supportive of someone and sounding condescending towards someone. And as a result, I think it's a fine line. It's a fine line because it feels like a lot of these like Hollywood people, at least here in America, it feels like they're really trying to like capitalize on women lately. Like to go back to the Spartan thing that I was talking about, there was so many so many commercials for Spartan this week, and all the commercials, all they said was the first all women team it will be competing on this episode. And it's like you got this like weird feeling that like it seems like they all just seem to realize it was like, oh hey, people like to see women who do well, and we should advertise that. And personally, in response to that, I say, no kidding. I've been saying this my entire life. Ever since I was a child, I had wanted more like female heroes, and it took you this long to realize it. And it's like, sometimes it feels like they go overboard because it's like it feels less like, oh hey, we want to support this person because they're great. It's more like, hey, we want to support this person because they're women and we want to do marketing. Yeah. And so that's kind of, just go back to the whole top 5 women thing. That's why I'm convinced that this is done purely for like a TV thing to get the women on TV more and to market them more. Because like this commercial where it's like, I didn't know anything else that happened in the episode if I didn't watch it. Because it was just the first all-female team. I watched the episode. At least I watched half of it. It sucked. Spartan still sucks, by the way. It's boring. It's a boring show. And yeah, it turns out like the all-female team didn't even move on either. From what I've read, I didn't watch the whole thing. Anyway, the episode ended. I am way too long. The episode ended with Drew Drechsel running. He is still amazing on this course. I said he's a league on his own, and it shows. He got the fastest time, and it didn't even look like he was trying to get the fastest time. That's just where he is right now. He is, he's the clear and obvious favorite to be the next person to beat all 4 stages of Vegas. We'll have to see what happens. They just recently filmed Vegas, so stay off the internet for those spoilers. Let's run through the top 30 really quickly. So, top 30, we had 18 clears. Also, just really quickly, I counted 15 runs, 2 that were shown mid-progress, and 21 fast-forwards for this episode. 9 clears were shown, but in actuality, 18 runs were completed. There was 121 competitors as well. So, the top 30. First, the 18 people who cleared: Drew Drechsel, Travis Rosen, Tyler Gillette, Cassidy Marks, Tukron Klingdong, JJ Woods, Brett Sims, Rico Rivera, Ryan Stratus, Lucas Gomez, Sean Don Hammond, Nick Patel, Kevin Carbone, Rigel Henry, Alexo Gomez, Dustin Fishman, Michael Johnson, Eddie Stewart, and the rest of the list failed the Rolling Thunder. That would be Les Brasley, Michael Murdoch, Stephen Ken, Booty Conthran, Faris Zero, Cedric Idodu, Oscar Ramirez, Ricky Vu, Jessie Graff, Josh Butler, Royal Eason, and Jonathan Lorch. So Jessie made it in the top 30, so the remaining 4 women who made it into the top 5. Second place was Lindsay Eskildsen. I'm sorry. Followed by Bree Widener. They failed the Rolling Thunder, and then the last 2 women who failed the Wingnuts were Emily Duran and Adrienne Avalor. So that is my summary of Daytona, it went overly long. I had some slight technical difficulties, and I'm sorry if it went too long, but this was a fun episode to watch, and I think, and sometimes when I enjoy stuff, I talk about it. I like to talk about it. So yeah, a lot of good stuff, only a little bit of bad stuff, but mostly good stuff. And what did you think? Did you like Daytona? Did you not like it? Was there anything that, you want to change? What did you think of the obstacles? Did you like the wing nuts as much as I did? Let me know in the comments if you care. And so, yeah, this has been William for 222 Productions saying thank you and see ya.